welcome to aminacademy.com. Let us discuss about Ottoman institutions and society. The transformation of Osman frontier principality into a state and then an empire altered the ruler's relations to his followers. As tribal leader, frontier bey, and then independent bey, the Ottoman leader carried the government and military command more or less in his saddle. The administration and army were composed of the same people, mostly members of the princely Turkmen families and of their nomadic followers, along with a few Christian converts. In peace, they collected taxes from the conquered areas. In war, they led the fight against the enemy and took booty. The capital was wherever the Bey and his commanders happened to be. All this time, the Ottoman leader was still no more than a tribal chief, able to claim the loyalty of the clans and tribes that followed him only as long as he led them to good grazing land and booty. In the councils leader were all equals, and he was no more than first among them. Individuals, leaders, and their followers could and did leave him when he failed to gain as much booty as they wished, or for any other reasons they demand sufficient. Anyone who wished to approach the Ottoman leader could do so in a camp or on the march without performing any special rituals or marks of obeisance. The authority of the Bey extended only to those functions involved in his role as military leader of the allied clans. In all internal matters, each tribe or clan was autonomous. Each settled matters of justice according to its own traditions and by its own leaders without any interference from the Ottomans. The Ottoman leader could intervene only in dispute between the among and clans between and among clans and then as a mediator. Most disputes were settled by tribal customs and law, with Muslim law and jurisdictions having little influence regardless of the fact that the Ottomans and their followers professed to be Ghazis. Under such a government, what could territorial rule mean? Whatever administration existed in the early Ottoman territories was largely financial in scope. Each clan or tribe or family collected all the booty it could in the lands it conquered as part of the Ottoman's army. It had the right to collect taxes afterward from the same territory as regularly as it could. It had neither the time nor the inclination to interfere with the producers of wealth in other possession of property or agriculture or trade operating as long as they paid their taxes. Next, about the society. Ottoman society. What was the effect of Ottoman expansion on the mass of the people who composed Ottoman society? During the conquest, the rapid movement of armies and nomads through settled areas inevitably diminished the original population, not only from death in battle, but also from famine, plagues, and mass movements away from the fighting. But for the most part of the conquered people remained where they were. Where Turkmens were settled in the Balkan areas of greatest resistance as well as the major military centers such as Edrine, Philip, Sona, Salonika, Terhala, like that. As a result, the conquered provinces witnessed a considerable survival of Christian traditions. Transmission occurred most in those areas not taken up by the nomadic Turks, such as agriculture, trade, and maritime life. Byzantine scribal traditions were influential at first, but later these and other areas of government and life were submerged by the legacy of the old Islamic empires. Since Islamic law was well developed, and since the Christians and Jews in any case were permitted to retain their own legal traditions under Ottoman rule, there was little borrowing here. In the arts and crafts, both the settled Christian people and the Muslim entering from the Middle East had strongly developed and long lived traditions that survived side by side under the Ottomans. Such considerable intermixture and mutual enrichment. In the area of religion, while formal Islamic institutions had little need to accept Byzantine influences, heterodox mystic Islam always found room to absorb elements from other religions it encountered, just as the pagan Turks of Central Asia had brought shamanistic elements into Islam. In Ottoman Anatolia, Christian religions, practices, and beliefs enters Islam through the conversion of Christians as well as through observation and social assimilation. Mystic Muslim worshippers adopted the cults of a number of Christian saints, equating them with their own Muslim saints. Now, let us discuss about some points about Ottoman institution and society. The Ottoman Empire had several institutions and social classes, including the ruling class. The askari was the ruling class, which included the noblemen, court officials, military officers, and religious class called the ulama. The lower classes, the riya or the flock, was the lower class, which included craftsmen and merchants in urban areas and rural farmers. The central government. The central government was made up of the Sultan and his staff, known as the House of Osman. The Diwan, which was made up of the Grand Vizier and the ruling class, advised the House of Osman. The Sultan's household. The Sultan's household was the basic organizational unit of Ottoman society. It included the Sultan's kins, retainers, and servants. The millet system. The millet system gave non Muslims some autonomy, but they had a lower social status than Muslims and were subject to special taxes and other economic restrictions. The imperial institutions. The imperial institutions were four functional institutions that provided leadership and directions of the Ottoman system. The palace, Mulki, led by the Sultan. The military, Saifi or Akari, responsible for expanding and defending the empire. The administrative institution, Kalamiya, in charge of collecting and spending the imperial revenues. The religious institution, Ilmi, in charge of organizing and propagating the faith. The Ottoman Empire was a vast and diverse society influenced by Arab, European, and Persian cultures. But there was no caste system among the people in Ottoman ruling. Next, the Ottoman society and culture were diverse and influenced by many cultures, including Turkish, Persian, Arab, and European. The Ottoman Empire was divided into two main classes. The ruling classes are Askari and the lower classes are Riya. Already explained. The Riya included merchants, craftsmen, farmers, headsmen, and manufacturers and seafarers. The Ottoman Empire was divided between Muslims and non-Muslims, with Muslims theoretically having a higher standing. Non-Muslims were ruled and judged under their own laws, such as canon law for Christians and halakha for Jewish citizens. Culture. The Ottoman Empire's culture was influenced by the cultures of the lands it conquered as well as by Persian culture. The Ottoman rulers modeled themselves after the Persian emperor and welcomed Persian art. Architecture. Ottoman Empire's architectural structure are still admired and influential today. The Western art has been influenced by Ottoman art, which is known for its balance and detail. Traditions. One of the Ottoman traditions was to regularly visit each other regardless of nationality. Military. The Ottoman Empire conscribed young Christians boys from the Balkans into the Janissaries, a professional army, and converted them to Islam. Mm. So far, we discussed about Ottoman institution and society. We have done. Please subscribe our YouTube channel.